Hi everyone, Jen Roque here at stampcampwithjen.com. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Summerfield, Florida, and welcome to today's technique video. This technique is called the Inlaid Floating Technique, I believe. I recently saw this from another demonstrator. She's Australian demonstrator Alyssa Tilsner shared this, and she of course got it from another demonstrator. That's how these things tend to go. We share all of our ideas, so I wanted to share it with you today. So this is a really cool technique. It actually uses a sheet of acetate to lift up this striped image here, and then we use like a more detailed die cut and kind of press it down in there, and that's what makes the inlaid floating technique there. You can kind of see how it's raised up, but the succulent die is actually inside. So it's pretty cool. So it's a pretty simple card, but you can make all kinds of different shapes and patterns. So I'm going to show you how to do this today so you can go and play around with it on your own. So for this card, we're using the Simply Succulents Bundle. We're using the die for the little succulent inlay, and then the thanks is from the Simply Succulents stamp set that comes in that bundle. So all right, so let me show you how to do the inlay technique. So what you're gonna need is a piece of acetate. So it's a little hard to see, but I do have a piece here. I'm actually gonna grab my silicone mat, maybe make it a little bit easier for you to see here. So this piece is 3.5 inch, it's a 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch square, okay? So I grabbed some Flirty Flamingo, Daffodil Delight, and Coastal Cabana strips. This is a great way if you have all those little strips to get rid of, or to use your scraps to make a cool technique on a card. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of set up a pattern here. I'm going to make sure that when I lay down my strips, I lay it down from the top edge and try to work, make an even pattern all the way down. Now they don't all have to be the same size. It's actually kind of a cool, it looks really neat actually if you have variations in size. So I'm going to try to do that a little bit. Like I said, I just kind of grabbed scraps of different colors. So actually I'll grab like a fatter piece that I have here. And as you can see, they are my scrap strips that I just kind of grabbed out of my stash. So, and then I think we're only going to need like 5 of these. As far as the spacing goes, you want it to be fairly even. You don't want huge wide gaps in between the strips though. Let's see, maybe. And actually, and the circle die that I'm going to use is the large circle from the layering circles die. So actually 5 strips will probably be just enough. I don't need to cover the whole thing. So, all right, so once I have them about where I want them, I'm going to just take some Stampin' Seal. You can use whatever glue you like. I know not everybody is a big fan of the new Stampin' Seal, and that's totally fine. And you can just kind of eyeball. It doesn't have to be perfect. I know some people will use a ruler and try to get it perfectly straight. You could definitely do that, but I am not that worried about it. Okay, and then we'll do the Daffodil Delight. This is a little fatter piece here. I just thought this was so cool, and there's so many things, like so many different patterns you could do, and you could just go crazy with it, different color combinations. I loved it. I thought it was such a cool idea. So thank you to whoever actually originally came up with it. I don't know who the original creator of this idea is. It's just, I saw it from Alyssa. Okay, so we've got them all adhered to the acetate. So I'm just going to kind of trim the edges just a little bit. You don't have to do that. I have some strips that are really, really long, so I kind of want it to be a little bit straighter on the sides for when I run it through my die cutting machine. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to go run this through my die cutting machine real quick, and I'm just going to lay the circle on just like that and run it through. I'll be right back. So I actually ran it through my die cutting machine only one time, and it pops out really easily, just like that. Now we can take the rest of it and throw it in the trash. Okay, actually, I'm gonna bring my die cutting machine over so you can see how I'm gonna cut the little piece out here. So I'm using, let's see here, make it so you can see it. Okay, so I'm using this little succulent die. It's got a lot of details on the inside. You want something, whatever shape you're gonna use for your die cut, you want it to have like a fine, like a fine detailed shape or pattern to really make that striking image. So I'm just gonna kind of overlay it. You can see above my Daffodil Delight and my Coastal Cabana. You just want it to kind of reach over at least 2 of those strips. And I'm gonna try to center it to really get that pow. You don't wanna do it where there's the gap because you wanna be able to see everything connect against those colors, excuse me. Okay, so I think it was just because I wasn't on a very good cutting surface. So once I got it on my flat surface, because I've got a bunch of papers over here, it popped out a little bit better. But you may have, that's a problem you might run into. You may have to go back a few times with your die cutting machine to get that to cut through. So the acetate is just really, really thick. You can also, my first attempt, with the first design that I did, I actually put a couple sheets of paper just to have like an extra bit of pressure underneath. You can do that too if you're worried about it not cutting through the acetate well enough. So, all right, so I'm gonna build my card layer real quick, my card base. I'm just using Flirty Flamingo. Just use whatever you have to coordinate with your colors in your inlay. And then I have basic white and basic black, and I'm just gonna layer those on top of each other. Really, we're only gonna have the slightest border with this one, so I just wanted that little bit of black to kind of peek out. So make sure my card opening is in the right direction. And then this is gonna have a bigger border of the Flirty Flamingo around it. Okay, so now to put our die cut piece here. So we're going to pop this up with dimensionals, and then I took that same succulent die that we used to cut out this hole. I already cut one out in the basic black. So that's what you're gonna do, is whatever shape that you're gonna cut out of your circle, or you can do a rectangle or whatever you wanna do, you use the die cut to make your hole, and then you use that same detailed die to make a black die cut. And that black die cut, we're gonna pop this circle up, but then this black die cut is gonna get glued down to the base here. I'll show you how to do that real quick. So, and then when you put your die, when you pop this up, you want to have the dimensionals near where the opening is, and also kind of around the outside border, just so that you get good coverage and it really pops up like it's supposed to. And just kind of be mindful that you're keeping the dimensionals over the color, and they're not going to peek through where the opening is for the acetate, because you don't want it to show through the acetate. Cut my edges here. Always use these edge pieces. You can make your dimensionals go so much further by just trimming those little edge pieces. There's nothing wrong with those. I've heard people throw them away. I'm like, why? Don't throw them away. You have to save those, use them. They're just the same thing. They're just kind of like the little ending. Oh, that's good enough, I guess. So see, I've got my dimensionals all over, and then I've got them kind of, well, maybe I'll put a little one right here too. I've got them all next to my opening that I die cut out too. So we'll pop that up. But yeah, I couldn't believe when I heard that some people actually throw these little edge dimensionals away. I'm like, no way, you have to save those and use them and stretch all your supplies, get the most out of them. So, all right, so I'm just gonna kind of put it off center here. I like kind of the retro vibe this has with these colors. I thought they were kind of springy looking, and I really liked it. So that's why I chose those colors, and I had a bunch of them laying around. All right, so we're gonna grab my silicone mat here, and I'm gonna turn my die cut upside down, and I'm going to take my glue and just put a light dab of glue all over, just to make sure that all the little corners and edge pieces are all gonna stick. And then I'm gonna use my tweezers, one of my favorite tools here, and I'm gonna use it to pick up my die cut. And then I'm going to make sure I have it positioned exactly where it needs to go. I think it goes like this in these holes here. And then we're just gonna kind of stick it through. We're gonna use our tweezers to kind of push it in and get that die cut exactly where we want it to go. That's another thing of beauty with the liquid glue, is it gives you time to kind of move it around. And then the tweezer, by using the points of the tweezers, you can kind of move it and get it in position, and the glue gives you a few minutes to make sure. See, we want to make sure my glue is still kind of drying, but that's good. We don't want it completely dry just yet. But you want to kind of look at it from the top and make sure that all your edges are lined up about where they should be against the cut in your circle there. So I think that's pretty good. And you can always go in with your finger or napkin or something, get the excess glue out. All right, so now we're gonna do a little bit of decorating. Oh my gosh, my desk is a mess. I need to clean. I'm in the middle of class kits, so I've got stuff everywhere right now. Okay, so we are gonna take the thanks from that Simply Succulent stamp set, and we're just gonna stamp this in tuxedo black ink. And this piece is about 3/4 by like 2 1/4 inches. I'll have all the dimensions on my blog, but I'm gonna stamp it. And then I am going to take my banner pick a punch, and I'm going to put my piece all the way at the end. When they're a little bit short, sometimes I like to flip it over to make sure that it's actually centered on the back here. Yep. Pretty good. And so what we're going to do with this one is we're just going to kind of stick it back behind there, but obviously if you have a bunch of dimensionals, it's going to be harder to do that. So I'm just going to trim off just a little bit here. See, and then we can kind of stick it right back in there. So I'm going to grab some Stampin' Seal. And we're just going to kind of stick it to the side here. And then I have some matte black dots. I know these are on back order. These are so popular. I love them so much. They are very, very cute, and they go with everything since they're black. Let's see how this. I put a bigger one down, and then I take 2 smaller ones, and I put one here and one up there, and that's it. And that is how you do the floating inlay technique. Let's move those down a little bit so you can see them. Alrighty, well, I hope you've enjoyed this technique, and I hope you'll give it a try and let me know how it goes. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I usually try to post a new video on Fridays, so be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell so you never miss a video. And be sure to check back often for new projects. If you need any of the supplies from today's project, please shop them in my online store. And don't forget that you can get a free gift with a purchase of $50 or more, not only because it's Celebration, but also through my monthly free gift that I offer. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at stampcampwithjen@gmail.com. And until next time, campers, I hope you stay safe, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.